So this will probably get uploaded to YouTube at some point. I don't think I'm covering anything with the chat, so I'm going to be going over to New World related information videos here. There's been some stuff that's been put out from the devs, which is surprising to me, because I feel like the marketing people have been like trying to hide the people that have made the game recently, and then just putting out like generic content. And they're like, don't worry devs, let us take the wheel. We nailed this before, we're going to nail it again. Going to get a bunch of people to buy our game, they're going to love it. They're not going to refund it, and the game is going to thrive because of us. And they're like, don't worry, we'll carry the boat from here. And this is the first time we really got to see the devs kind of speak about things.
When New World launched in 2021, we could have never anticipated the incredible response it received. Millions of players logged in and for the first time found themselves on the shores of the mysterious island of Eternum. They experienced our vision for an open-world game with classless action combat combined with deep and varied RPG systems. And
I'm not gonna lie, this is like professional quality, and most of the stuff they put out is not professional quality. Like, this is really good from AGS already, like in terms of the visuals and the marketing perspective. Marketing is so good for this game.
A massive shared world.
Maybe too good.
We've evolved New World over time, with dozens of content updates. New massive zones like Brimstone Sands and the Elysian Wilds. New weapons like the Blunderbuss, Greatsword, and Flail. We've added seasons which bring regular updates with endgame challenges and new quests.
I think they've added
New World
4
today
new
is
weapons
a
in
very
total.
different game than New World in 2021, and some of the biggest additions and updates to the game are set to arrive with the release of New World Eternum on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC this October.
So they're actually acknowledging that it's the same game. They're not
New World Eternum is the definitive New World experience.
trying to hide
It's
that.
all of the content added to the game since launch, plus a number of exciting features and updates for both new and current players. For the campaign, we've created a bigger, better, more cinematic experience that can be completed solo or cooperatively. The storytelling has evolved with new cinematics, new quests, and refined progression and leveling systems.
Dude, they are way too good at marketing. Like, half the stuff that they just said in the last minute and a half is a lie, but they're so good at this, like the storytelling here, and like the blending and like editing is like been so good that like I bet 90% of people will just believe everything they just said. But as people pointed out in the chat, a lot of the stuff that they are saying was not true, like already. But we're gonna try to go through this whole thing and then kind of go back through this. So we'll just kind of like go through it a second time and break it down a little bit more in depth later.
Players can interact with NPCs with the new and enhanced dialogue system, and everything has been optimized with full controller support.
There's
Default
also a
keybinds.
new player experience to help introduce players to the world of Eternum. It's beautiful, mysterious, and acts as a great introduction to the deep lore and mechanics of the game. For New World veterans, we have some really awesome endgame experiences planned for you as well.
Do you? I don't know what they do.
A major addition coming to New World Eternum is what we're calling the Cursed Mists. Cutlass Keys has been transformed into a larger and more treacherous open world PvP/PvE zone.
When players enter the mists, they're immediately flagged for PvP.
That is so funny. They're calling it the Mists? Dude, they literally stole this from Albion and they made it 3 times worse. The thing from Albion that works the same way as this is called the Mist. But they have all this technology into it that makes it so that you can't identify who other people are. So you can't team. And they're calling it the same name, doing the same thing, but making it worse. And that game's been out for 6 years. Oh, okay.
All bets are off in this area. It's a total free-for-all. No grouping,
Like,
just
at least call it
every
something
adventurer
different.
for themselves. This free-for-all zone is also heavily populated with new enemies, special resources, and valuable treasures in cursed chests.
You'll have to survive against not only other players, but also powerful enemies to earn cursed doubloons, a special currency that can be exchanged for rewards at the Well of Fortune. The gear that you get at the Well of Fortune is some of the best endgame gear in Eternum. But with the highest rewards in the game come the highest risks. You'll have to tread lightly. If you die in the Cursed Mist, you drop some of your cursed items, which of course can be looted by other players for their own gain.
One of the most exciting new features coming to New World Eternum is our first ever 10-player raid, the Hive of Gorgons. After defeating Medusa in New Olympus, players will learn of a new threat. The Gorgons have risen, and they're raising an army of the Hersine.
So we're gonna have 2 raids to do because they updated the old raid too.
Players enter the Hive and negotiate a gauntlet of challenging puzzles and epic boss battles.
The raid has some of the best boss battles yet in New World. They're massive, imposing, and each require a unique strategy to take down. In the Hive of Gorgons, there's danger at every turn, with deadly traps to navigate and seemingly impossible mazes to solve.
But the rewards are well worth the effort. Max level gear for all playstyles, armor sets, melee weapons, and artifacts for only level gear for all playstyles.
I saw pictures of this everywhere. It's so funny. They show like the endgame gear. It's like, oh, look at this endgame gear, and then this guy's wearing like a green amulet and all of this, and has nothing in his inventory, and just has like 900k gold for some reason. They did parts of this well, but parts of it are really silly too. I'm like, look at his stat distribution. Like, what is that? Like, who knows 350 strength, 114 dex? Like, hello? He's exploiting.
Armor sets, melee weapons, and artifacts for only the best warriors in Eternum. The Hive of Gorgons also features a soundtrack unlike anything we've ever done before. We had the amazing opportunity to collaborate with an indie composer from Switzerland named Joel Schosch. It transports you straight into the heart of the raid, creating a powerful contrast with its visuals. We can't wait for you to experience it.
I've heard the raid is really good.
Mechanics, bosses, and enemies that are unique to the Hive of the Gorgons, and there are incredible rewards to earn. We're looking forward to players discovering all the secrets of the raid.
Whether you're a new player or a seasoned veteran, New World Eternum is stacked with amazing new adventures. Gear scores being increased to 725, and we're introducing new daily soul trials,
But it's actually worse to run higher gear score items because we can't fix our own game.
which are challenging single-player boss fights for powerful gear.
Matchmaking will be featured across all game modes, making it easier than ever to connect with friends and new players. We'll also continue to run seasonal events post-launch. To our community, a big thank you.
To our existing players, thank you for holding off the corrupted invasions and building a great community.
To our new players, we want to welcome you to Eternum.
There is a beautiful world awaiting you.
This is the first chapter of a new era for us, and we can't wait to share everything we've been working on with you this October.
We'll see you in Eternum.
Okay, first impressions of this is marketing killed it again, but oh my god, they are really good at telling lies and smiling. They are really, really good at that. So, shout out to both marketing and the people that are in the video. Dave looks even more dead inside every video. Oh yeah, that's kind of a given. So let's kind of like go through this like piece by piece. So we kind of went through the whole thing there. I kind of want to go through it again, but then stop at key moments. I wanted to like focus a little bit more on the cinematic side that time. Side note, Katie could be hot. What? Dude, what are we talking about?
When
There's
New
some
World
things
launched in
here that I want to pause
2021,
on.
we could have never anticipated the incredible response it received. Millions of players logged in and for the first time found themselves on the shores of the mysterious.
So like for the reference here, New World peaked at around, for people that are like new to this or seeing the YouTube video, let's make this bigger actually and make it a different color. New World peaked around 900k people playing at the same time when it first came out. And then this dropped to about, I think it was 5k recently. So that kind of shows you the big trajectory of the studio and like why they had to go to console. It's not that they wanted necessarily to go to console. It's the, hey, we actually lost our entire player base because we didn't satisfy what they need or like their desires. So like we need new people to bring into here. Like we need to expand our group, and we can either do that through globalization, which they've kind of tried but sort of shut down in terms of like the AP Southeast servers. They've actually kind of closed most of them. A lot of the players from Brazil have now just played on the US East servers because they realize that the players in Brazil are like, those servers are like kind of just dead. So like a lot of that hasn't really panned out. So that's like the main reason why they had to go to console here. It's not necessarily that they wanted to, although like, you know, it's a good opportunity. It's just like their hand is sort of forced at the same time.
Island of Eternum. They experienced our vision for an open-world game with classless action combat combined with deep and varied RPG systems in a massive shared world.
Notice they say RPG here, not MMO. Like they're really trying to push that narrative that New World is an RPG. I think this is mostly because on console MMOs tend not to do very well. RPGs tend to do a little bit better. And geez, I kind of agree where they don't think he does. He just means it well and it could delegate stuff better. They just seem to go way over what he wanted. I mean, there's just like a lot of stuff like from a communications standpoint that AGS doesn't do well, as much as like they had that talk at like some studio like that they got paid to do or something silly like that, where they talked about how AGS is really good at communication. I feel like it's kind of the opposite, and a lot of the stuff's been kind of two-faced and not felt genuine. And that's something I think New World kind of needs to improve upon. Still.
We've evolved New World over time, with dozens of content updates. New massive zones like Brimstone Sands and the Elysian Wilds. New weapons
this
like
is
the
their pitch to
Blunderbuss,
come back,
Greatsword,
right?
and Flail. We've added seasons which bring regular updates with endgame challenges.
The seasons, they're not even consistent. Like at one point they skipped an entire season and had it go twice as long and didn't bring anything new. And they've also introduced technically a total of 4 weapons in 3 years. A Void Gauntlet I think was kind of planned and was kind of like teased right when the game first came out. So I think it's more like 3, and Void Gauntlet was just like kind of on standby. But they brought in Flail, they brought in Greatsword, they brought in Void Gauntlet, and why do I not remember the last one off the top of my head? But they brought in 4 new weapons. Most of them were like fairly impactful. I think Void Gauntlet was the one that's like in Flail but not really been used very much. Flail in particular is like, I think like no one really uses Flail for anything. It's just unfortunately a master of none kind of weapon, and it's occasionally good for utility, but it's just not common to see.
And new quests.
Dagger still missing?
New
Yeah.
World today is a very different
BB.
game
Yeah, you're
than
right,
New World in
Blunderbuss.
2021. And some of the biggest additions and updates to the game are set to arrive with the release of New World Eternum on Xbox Series.
My issue with most of this stuff is they're spinning content that's already been released as new content, right? And I think part of that is that they haven't really done that well in the last year. And then part of this also is they kind of launched in the middle of COVID, and I don't think people were just as productive during a COVID from an AGS standpoint. Like there's just a lot of stuff going on, and I think people are distracted. There's conflicting like guidelines in terms of what people want to do, and it feels like that's kind of panned out to be less content overall.
Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC.
They're hoping to
this
snag
October.
people who haven't played since launch. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, we just talked about this. Like, if say you have 900k people, and then this drops to 5k people, that is 895k people that we could potentially snag if we say, hey, look, we did some cool new things. And that, to them, is money. And money is what drives decisions here. It's not necessarily them, like, to me, this is the weird part, because like if money drives your decisions, the answer to any business people with money is just throw SaaS at anything. Like make it a subscription-based model. You incentivize doing active development, and then you also have to deliver an active product. But they're going for like these expansions, one-time kind of content pushes, and I think it's because they don't have the resources to really support an active product, but they try to make it seem like they do. And what usually happens in New World is you have your release, right? And then you have like roughly 3 months, and then you have no new content for 9 months, and then we have another release. And then this cycle kind of repeats itself, and you can see it in the player charts too, where people will spike to see the game, and then it'll like gradually fall down and then spike again. Like their event system just isn't something that tends to draw people in, because the loot from the event isn't really good for the end game. It's like a mid-game level reward, like on your way to getting into the game, and it's just like not well timed. Pistol leak at 0.27. Is there actually? Oh, I mean, I think that's supposed to be like Blunderbuss, or it's supposed to be like early character art. Like I don't think it's necessarily like a new weapon there. Yeah, it's a Blunderbuss. Yeah, it seems like a Blunderbuss. That being said, it's a really cool like skin if they were to add that one into the game.
Are set to arrive with the release of New World Eternum on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC this October.
The main thing to notice there is they say PC last. So they're trying to spin this as like it's coming to, like, they prio the console things before they prio the PC, mostly because the PC is older and they're thinking they're going to attract a bigger audience from the console, which is why, from a diction standpoint, you'd emphasize going for them first. And we saw that with the player charts too. When the beta came out, there were more people playing that were from the console side than there were from the Steam side. And then recently, they've come with the decision to hide these player numbers so that they actually have to be estimated now, and you can't tell which server's dead and which server's alive because people are looking back at the game after the beta. They're like, okay, I want to get into the game. Let's get into a server, and they're like, okay, I actually don't know which server is full, and like we don't know either. Like it's all hidden at this point, and that's bad from a lot of like transparency related reasons. And we'll just generally make stuff. I think a little bit. We'll make stuff a little bit more dispersed. Like people will be more evenly populated amongst servers and not be as dense on the bigger servers. But it's just like it's scummy, in my opinion. Like you shouldn't hide that information.
New World Eternum is the definitive New World experience.
Not gonna lie,
It's
the
all
gathering
of
and
content added to
is the best
game
part
since
about New
launch,
World,
plus
probably.
a number of exciting features and updates
Gathering
for both
resources
new and
is
current
very
players.
satisfying.
For the campaign, we've created a bigger, better, more cinematic experience that can be completed solo or cooperatively.
I appreciate them like completing the campaign, but I've already completed this campaign 7 times and I can't be bothered to do it an 8th time. Like it's like actually a chore at this point, and I don't think anything can change my mind at this point because I've done it way too many times. And they also didn't add in a 4th character slot, so for people that have 3 characters, people are considering either moving a character to a different region, which will then put all your characters on a 1-month cooldown, or you can pay to or you can delete a character basically. And it feels really stupid to delete a max level character to re-level it from start, but that's like what people are looking at with the fresh start here. I've heard Force Slot is leaked from beta. That's something I could ask about to people that are playing on that hidden build, but like I don't think it's guaranteed. It makes a lot of sense to introduce a 4th slot though.
The storytelling has evolved with new cinematics, new quests, and refined progression and leveling systems. Players can interact with NPCs with a new and enhanced dialogue system, and everything has been optimized with full controller support.
Apparently their default keybinds are really, really bad to the point where there's been a Reddit post that was posted recently that had hundreds of upvotes that was like, hey, use these keybinds for New World and it'll just feel a lot better. Like it feels like they didn't really test their own thing there super well. Or they just don't have people that are kind of competent leading that effort of making stuff intuitive, if that makes sense. Like if you've ever used an Apple product versus an Android product or something like that, not saying Apple is strictly better, but the stuff feels more intuitive to use, and there's a lot more emphasis on making things intuitive. Like the other day I noticed with my TV setup where it shows channels going from 1 down to a number, but if I, on my remote, press down, it will effectively go in the opposite direction of where the channel is. It's silly things like that, where it's if you want to go down, point the thing down. It's really simple things that people miss a lot. And this stuff that makes that helps make the game really intuitive. From a controller standpoint, there's certain buttons that are used for common games on controller. If you look at Call of Duty, they've been doing this for 20 years now. You probably want to kind of try to copy some of those keybinds because they're just in a good spot. And instead it feels like New World tried to reinvent the wheel. New World's generally behind in a lot of the aspects because they've tried to reinvent the wheel, and I don't think they really nailed this one either. Ironically, the combat, which we all enjoyed, did the same. People unfairly hated the game since it's not tab target, and so many people cry about low numbers or low number of abilities, for instance. But I mean, the low number of abilities, I think it's fine as long as there's only a few. The instant you add in tons and tons of abilities, it kind of gets crazy and overwhelming, and it just makes it hard to really know what's going on. If you play Throne of Liberty, for example, it's come out. It's there's every character has 20 different abilities, and it's from a visual standpoint, if I'm watching that game for the first time, I have no idea what's going on. If I watch New World for the first time, I actually kind of can understand what's going on. If I watch Deadlock even for the first time, I can understand what's going on. But there's a lot of games that kind of fail that first look test, and that's something that New World's done well.
There's also a new player experience to help introduce players to the world of Eternal. It's beautiful, mysterious, and acts as a great introduction to the deep lore and mechanics of the game. For
this
New
is a
World
lot
veterans,
better.
We have some really awesome endgame experiences planned for you as well.
They haven't released any of their plans from an endgame standpoint after this expansion, and we have gotten the PvP related zone, and then we've gotten the raid. It's the second New World raid. The first one I think was okay. It was just like one fight. It wasn't super crazy, but it was fine. And I think in general, New World's still been behind on this stuff, even though there's games like Destiny that have been out for 10 years and they've already had like really, really successful raids, and the game's just been pumping out more and more and more of them. Like New World's just finally getting into what raids are, and it's a little bit old for this archetype, to be honest. The PvP side, everyone's kind of talked about it. Target lock kills 90% of the hype for the PvP. I think 5% of it for me is killed because their end game content loop is still a chest run at its core. If you actually dig into it, like you have to go to a spot, you have to gather a resource, and I'll probably talk about this in a bit when they go back to that area. But going to an area, gathering a resource by hitting a button is just like, it feels like a chore to me, because it is a chore. Like it's not engaging, like entertaining gameplay or anything like that. It's so, I don't know. It's okay.
A major addition coming to New World Eternum is what we're calling the Cursed Mists.
And this triggers me too, because the game that nailed the mist is Albion. It's the best part about that game, and they call it the same name, and it's half as good, if that. I'll get into why.
Cutlass Keys has been transformed into a larger and more treacherous open world PvP PvE zone.
When players enter the mists,
So they call that PvX. It's not PvEVP. It's PvX, where X is anything.
they're immediately flagged for PvP. All bets are off in this area. It's a total free.
This would never happen because you have a healer here, right? And like these three people be like, fuck this healer in particular. We're gonna kill that healer. And then after they killed the healer, then they probably wouldn't fight each other. It'd be two people that fight the one person. And then after that, then maybe these two fight each other, and maybe they don't because they're actually friends. It's like these kind of things weren't really thought out, and that's what the Miss and Albion nailed. Because where you could identify this person from this person, this person from this person, right? They're all unique models. In Albion, you can't identify people at all. Like, they don't have a unique name. They're in a separate instance. They spawn in a random location, so you can't easily group up. And there's like a timer based on all of this. So it's like really, really hard to nail this. And this is what that mist concept comes from. It's the direct name of what they call it in Albion and why it's so effective. And there's chests that spawn. Everyone knows where the chests are that spawn. So people fight over these like their little hot zones. In New World, it's just chests are in marked locations. I'm going to go run to this chest. Oh, now there's a chest over here. I'm going to run over to that chest. Oh, there's a chest over here. I'm going to run over to that chest and press my collect button. And there's just not as much involvement in it. Like, it's like, I think people realize this in about 2 weeks, and then they'd be like, wow, this is shitty. And it is shitty because they just didn't really take lessons from other games and nail it well. Like, one thing that you do if you're like a studio like this is you do your market research. You see what other games did. What did they do well? What could we steal from them? Because it turns out that not everyone can invent the wheel twice, and it's better just to steal things that are liked from other games. And I don't think they really nailed this. The dropping half your stuff on death that you gathered from the zone, I think, is somewhat beneficial. But like, say I'm a PvP player, I go in there with Bisque gear, I have no loot on me, and I'm just trying to kill people. If I die, I don't drop anything. So like, I'm just gonna hunt other people, and there's no risk reward there. Now, beyond you lose your set if you go out there, so you lose your gear set, so that's a little bit more risk reward. I don't think New World would really have the capability of doing that, but maybe losing like 5k gold or something like that, and you give it to the other person, or like a tenth of your wealth, or I don't know. Like, there's other ways to like get around that mechanic that I don't think they really explored either. The influence races seems like better content. They are, but they don't give us good rewards. So, and because New World has gone from a vertical progression with this expansion, where there's only 2 good endgame reward systems with the island. So you have the PvP track, which is the island, right? And then you have the raid track, which is the PvE track. Everything else is discounted. So you have OPR. This is not going to be endgame loot. You have 3v3. This is not going to be endgame loot. You have influence races. I'll just abbreviate that IR. That's not going to have endgame loot. You have mutations. That's not going to be endgame loot. You have invasions. That's not going to be endgame loot. And all of these, because they don't have endgame loot, are just going to feel like chores, and they're not actually going to be something that like people want to actively do because they don't give you endgame stuff. I guess the other thing to throw in here too is war. But like, people don't really play War for the end game route. This is like actually just a really fun game mode. Realistically, the only way to get 3-perk gears from Braid Inductors, it calculated like 300 gears to get a single 3-perk burst item from the PvP doubloon chests. Yeah, the PvP is not really a way to get gear. The main way is going to be that from the raid, and I think the way that you'll see loot is because there's a schematic that drops that crafts gear that is not bind on equip, because it's apparently a different set thing that I've been looking at, and because it's something that can be sold on the marketplace, that would be the main way to get gear, but it's like not super consistent. Dark matter equal umbrals, all content is rewarding. War is just 200 people anyway. Yeah, like War is not like endgame content. Like they could have made this into endgame content. They just failed at this for 3 years, and they just like bickered on like what to do with War, and they've just left it the same because they don't know what to do with it. Like the one thing that they should learn from War is that cleanse pots are good, and they should add cleanse pots to other modes, but they have not like gone through with that. Wish they add practice wars already. Yeah, like stuff like that. It's like common sense, but they just haven't done it. Gonna be Farm City. People are gonna be get so butthurt out there for the PvP area. Yeah, I mean the other thing about the PvE area or the PvP is like, say I don't really want to fight each other. Well, I know who my friends are, right? And I can group up with my friends, run from here to here to here to here, and I just invented a chest run, which has already existed in New World, but people are now doing it together instead of solo because AGS didn't really think that people would do that. So when this first came out and this leak for this PvP island first came out, I told the contacts I have in the NDA beta side, it was like, hey, like if they don't change this, people are going to team together. And the spot I got was a quote from Scott Lane, and he said that we just hope that they won't team together, basically. Like he was like, I'm paraphrasing there, but he was saying that, oh, we don't think people will actually team because that's unfair, and why would they do that? Like they just don't understand players at their core. Like if people are going into a spot where they're risking things, they're gonna team together. Like the only way that you would make that like not possible is like by making everything like bind on equip or bind on pickup or something stupid, so they couldn't redistribute rewards at the end of it. But that's not going to be the case. So I don't know. It's like a thing that like they kind of lost me on. Isn't he like 60 as well? We've looked at this before. The last game that Scott worked on that was really successful was like a WWE SmackDown game. And it's like, how do you go from like working on WWE? I think there was a Marvel game too in there, but he went from like a fighting background to New World, and some of the New World fighting stuff is really good, but like, how do you go from like a fighting background to like leading everything from New World? It doesn't really make sense to me. Like you should be trying to get someone from like, try to poach someone from Blizzard who's like decently high up there that was like a VP and they want to be a director but never got an opportunity. Like that's where you go to. You don't go to like the dude that led WWE SmackDown 24. Like I don't understand that at all. But that's in the past at this point because AGS can't revert that decision super well without like firing him, but it doesn't seem like they ever want to do that. So
For all. No grouping, just every adventurer for themselves.
that's not going to be the
Free
case.
for all
I
zone
wish.
is also heavily populated with new enemies, special resources, and valuable treasures in cursed chests.
Some of these can drop
You'll have
scarabs,
to
by the
survive
way.
against not only other players, but also powerful enemies to earn cursed
Just saying this as an aside, but she has a cute fit. I'm not gonna lie.
doubloons, a special currency that can be exchanged
Looks
for
good.
rewards at the Well of Fortune. The gear that you get at the Well of Fortune is some of the best endgame gear in Eternum. But
Everyone else is like in a t-shirt, but like her thing is like actually kind of fits it a little
You'll
bit.
have to
Like,
tread lightly. If you die in the cursed miss, you drop some of your cursed items, which of course can be looted by other players for their own gain.
5v5 arenas win. Yeah, they haven't really done a lot with 5v5.
One of the most exciting new features coming to New World Eternum is our first ever
Are there 10 people in this? Did they actually nail this right, or did they mess this up somehow? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where are the other 2 people?
one of the most
It's a 10-person raid. Why are there 8 people in here?
exciting new features coming to New World Eternum is our first ever 10-player raid, the Hive of Gorgons. After defeating Medusa in New
When
Olympus,
recording the
players
camera?
will
That's
learn
what
of
I'm
a new
thinking.
threat. The Gorgons have risen, and they're raising an army of the Hirsine. To stop them, you'll have to assemble a team of powerful players, enter the Hive, and negotiate a gauntlet of challenging puzzles and epic boss battles.
The raid has some of the best boss battles yet in New World. They're massive, imposing, and each require a unique strategy to take down.
I'm not gonna lie. watching this 2 seconds of gameplay doesn't make me think that like they're very mechanical at all. Like you have one tank that's holding aggro, a bunch of people here just like they're either healing or just like shooting the boss some range, and like a bunch of other people just chilling. But I imagine they played like an easy version of this world event vibes. Yeah, that's what I am saying. Like it looks like a sponge to me. The first 2 fights have already been leaked. I didn't realize they've already been leaked. I'm probably not going to show them immediately here because if I do, AGS will figure out another way to give me a copyright strike, but that's something.
Take down. In the Hive of Gorgons, there's danger at every turn, with deadly traps to navigate and seemingly impossible mazes to solve.
But the rewards are well worth the effort. Max level gear for all playstyles, armor sets, melee weapons, and artifacts for only the best warriors in a tournament. The Hive of Gorgons also features a soundtrack unlike
like 3
anything
artifacts.
we've ever done before. We had the amazing opportunity to collaborate with an indie composer from Switzerland named Joel Schosch.
I love how he's like going out there with the xylophone, using his hand to like stop things, but this dude is playing everything. It's kind of cool. But he's also just like a one-man army, it seems like.
It transports you straight into the heart of the raid, creating a powerful contrast with its visuals. We can't wait for you to experience it.
There are many new mechanics,
Video is really
bosses,
cool.
and
They showed the
enemies that are
entire
unique to
creation
the
of
Hive
the
the
song.
Gorgons, and there are
I didn't
incredible
watch
rewards
that,
to
yeah,
earn.
that's really cool.
We're looking forward to players discovering all the secrets of the raid.
Whether you're a new player or a seasoned veteran, New World Eternum is stacked with amazing new adventures. Gear scores being increased in veteran.
Like, is it just
New World
me? Like the gal earlier had like a really cool fit, and like everyone else is here is just like, oh yeah, we're gonna wear the most basic T-shirt to make sure that we don't have a logo on or anything like that. Like, I don't know. Like it's like a small detail, but like
Eternum is stacked with amazing new adventures. Gear scores being increased to 725, and we're introducing new daily soul trials, which are challenging single-player boss fights for powerful gear.
Matchmaking will be featured across all game modes, making it easier than ever to connect with friends and new players. We'll also continue to run seasonal events post-launch. To our community, a big...
wait. Oh no. Oh no, they're using the same seasonal events again? I thought they would at least show a new seasonal event. Oh.
To our community, a big thank you.
To our existing players, thank you for holding off the corrupted invasions and building a great community.
Real thanks, Jake, because no one else wants to do that shit.
To our new players, we want to welcome you to Eternum.
There is a beautiful world awaiting you.
This is the first chapter of a new era for us, and we can't wait to share everything we've been working on with you this October.
We'll see you in Eternum.
Okay, for real though, when are they gonna make invasions like actually like entertaining and I don't know. But yeah, I mean, great piece of marketing. I also agree with every single person in the comments that they need to remove aimbot from PvP. It's literally all top 6 comments. It's so funny. I don't know. Oh my god. The crazy part about that is like they were told by this by like the remaining PvP players, which is like very few in that NDA beta. But like it's just like you don't mix aimbot and PvP. Like even aim assist is controversial enough because there's ways to effectively get aimbot on the consoles with things like the Zim, which is just keyboard and mouse, but they hide it as console inputs, so you just get the aim assist, which effectively makes with the keyboard, which just makes it like really strong. Like that's normally a controversy, and there's some games that have even solved that. But you don't just go, you know, we're gonna level the playing field completely and just put in aimbot, and we're gonna take away the one thing that people talk about New World always being positive, which is the combat. Like that's a big oof. Like I don't think you really want to mess with the combat that much. And that's like one spot that you just don't want to mess with it at all. It was just the aimbot basically here. Like they're marketing it as aim assist. It's literally aimbot, but it's like poor man's aimbot because it doesn't work with projectiles past a certain meter range. But it's still an aimbot, and it's still OP for melee players. It's still OP for blunderbuss. It's still OP for musket. Like anything that's like hit scan or has a high enough velocity to borderline be hit scan and a short enough range will effectively be really, really good with this. Keep scrolling, miicrow. Why? Are there more weird comments? Oh my god, it's just more and more about the... Is it really just aimbots? Over and over and over? Oh my god. They're still gonna find a way to not listen to this, because I don't think they have a backup plan, and there's 15 days. But... wow. Like, for reference, the feedback I get that's the most common on the videos from, like, people that are returning to the game is like, I was really interested in checking out New World again, I looked at the beta, it looked really, really interesting, and then I found out they added an aimbot, and I just can't get behind that. And it's like, ooh.